Welcome back to Last Week I Watched. I'm Mark and I watch things. This is Frank. Sometimes he watches things with me too. Usual. And this week, here are some of the things I watched. So I watched The World According to Jeff Goldblum, Race to Witch Mountain, 47 Meters Down Uncaged, The Glass House, Great White, and Monster Hunter. Yes, let's talk about them, shall we? Anyway, first up is The World According to Jeff Goldblum. It's a TV show from 2019 starring, surprise, surprise, Jeff Goldblum. It's showing on Disney+. So, this is a National Geographic series where Jeff Goldblum investigates various topics such as denim, bicycles, magic, RVs, jewelry, etc. in an attempt to understand them and how they work and why people interact with them, and I guess gain a deeper understanding of it all. Currently there are 2 seasons on there, although the second season is only 5 episodes. I'm guessing that the pandemic slowed down production on those ones. You can definitely see masks starting to creep in later episodes, which is unfortunate because it's quite a good show actually. Jeff explores these topics in his own unique style, often talking quite eloquently with his hands and being quite quirky and fascinating. And he kind of makes these topics a bit interesting. And on top of that, he also meets other people who have insight to share and interesting facts about the topic as he attempts to understand them better. I really enjoyed the show. I think that learning is part of life. The facts are interesting, and I did learn some interesting trivia about topics which I might not have previously bothered to spend a lot of time thinking about. And that's interesting. It's all growth. Our life is a constant journey of learning, and I think it's good to encourage learning, so check it out. Okay, next up was a movie, Race to Witch Mountain. It's from 2009, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Carla Gugino, I'm sorry if I mangled your name, and Sophia Robb, Alexander Ludwig, and it's showing on Disney+. So this story is about a Las Vegas cab driver who accidentally picks up 2 strange children with paranormal powers. He then has to help protect them from a government organisation who's pursuing them and try to get them home again. This is a quasi-remake of Escape to Witch Mountain, which was a film from 1975, and Return to Witch Mountain, which was a film from 1978, which were actually adapted from a book, which I didn't know. The original children from the 70s movies appear as Sheriff Anthony and Tina the waitress in the bar. There are all kinds of little references to the original Disney films sprinkled throughout. But unless you're a hardcore fan of the series, it's unlikely you're going to pick them all up. And I doubt that many children nowadays would be familiar with the original films, and that's fine. The film itself is good, it's fun enough, it's got some pretty good special effects. It's occasionally a bit scary, I'd say, for very small children, but sort of mid-aged children, no problem. I enjoyed it well enough. Although the really jarring thing I found was The Rock's appearance. He's definitely younger, he's much smaller than he currently is. He's more of a small boulder in this film rather than the large muscular thing that we know him as today. And it's kind of weird to see that he still had moss on top of his rock. But when you see how massive he's gotten for Black Adam and compare it to this, it's pretty shocking. The dude puts in an amazing amount of hard work. I really don't know how he does it. He must just live at the gym and be constantly eating. So the movie hints at a sequel, but I don't think one ever got made, and I couldn't find that one had. It looks like the film made only a very modest profit in the US, but worldwide did okay. I'm guessing it just wasn't enough profit to motivate a sequel though. So if you're looking for something to watch with the kids, it's got a bit of action, a bit of humour, and some superhero-esque vibes, then check it out. Okay, next up was 47 Meters Down Uncaged. This is a sequel to 47 Meters Down, which ironically I haven't watched, and I may check it out now. This one was from 2019, stars Sophie Nélisse, Corinne Fox, Brianne Shu, and Sistine Rose Stallone. It's showing on Netflix. So this is about a bunch of friends. They go diving in an underwater city, or ruins, and then they quickly learn that they've entered the territory of a deadly shark species, and they become trapped in a claustrophobic labyrinth of submerged tunnels and caves. This should probably be titled Why You Shouldn't Mess Around Cave Diving, as a bunch of teenage girls do impossibly stupid things and get into huge trouble. The girls are quite likeable though, and they probably should have just stuck to swimming in the cenote where they started rather than going diving in caves, ill-equipped, inexperienced, and without bothering to let anyone know where they'd gone. Just seems like a massively risky activity, and I don't know why anyone in their right brain would get into something like this, but people do, I suppose. The location for the film was interesting, particularly the ruined Mayan temple slash city, which wasn't something I'd seen before, particularly in an underwater setting. The underwater caves are incredibly claustrophobic and quickly create a sense of panic and tension. It's very similar to, I guess, The Descent, which is probably even scarier again, but certainly throwing in water and the option to become trapped and run out of air and drown and die and never be found is certainly ever present over the proceedings. Throwing in blind cave great whites really ups the threat, but I doubt that they would actually occur, because they are massive creatures and they pretty much need to be gobbling up a steady diet of teenage girls constantly. And I don't think there's too many of those strewn about caves very often. So, but if you can accept that it's just another ridiculous shark movie, and it's not all that realistic, it's a good enough time. I suppose though, if you can have sharks flying through the air in a tornado, then sharks in a cave is at least slightly more realistic. The story isn't anything more complex than stupid situation, let's try to get out of it. But it's reasonably enjoyable, and it's an acceptable piece of escapism. Overall, the film is quite frightening, particularly if you have an issue with small spaces or drowning, and if that's what you're looking for, then by all means give it a look. Okay, the next film is The Glass House. It's from 2001, starring Lily Sobieski, Diane Lane, Stellan Skarsgård, and it was shown on Netflix. So when some siblings are unexpectedly orphaned, they're taken in by a Malibu couple, but quickly discover the caring friends aren't who they appear to be. It's quite a good thriller with a good cast. They do a good job with the story. It becomes clear quite quickly that things with the couple aren't how they appear to be, they're quite unpleasant to each other and the children. There are unsavory characters hanging around putting financial pressure on them as distrust and tension builds. Ruby, one of the girls, the girl, starts to untangle what's going on and figures out that they have designs on the children's sizable inheritance. Eventually everything explodes into violence and the children forced to have to fight back. I enjoyed the movie. Stellan Skarsgård does a great job as the scary, manipulative husband. He flips between being caring to manipulative to disturbingly seductive with a teenage girl, before finally settling on murderous, as he's trying to deal with hostile loan sharks, the pressure of his wife's problems. Interestingly, the film didn't do great, which is surprising because it's got a great cast and it's pretty good. But its marketing was adversely affected by 9/11 at the time, which is a shame because it's a decent enough thriller. So check it out, it's worth a watch. Okay, next up was Great White. It was from 2021, starred Katrina Bowden, Aaron Jakubenko, Kimi Sukakushi, and it was showing on Prime. So this is another shark story, if you couldn't guess from the title. I don't know why sometimes when I watch these things I suddenly get a sequence of them. I'm guessing the system says you've watched that, watch this one. But this one's about a charter flight. It goes to a remote atoll and quickly turns into a nightmare for 5 passengers when their seaplane is destroyed, leaving them stranded on a raft 100 miles from shore with man-eating sharks between them and the land. It also doesn't help when you're stranded on a raft with one of the most irritating men you could possibly imagine. Seriously, this character is responsible for causing a lot of trouble and getting people killed. They should have just hit him in the back of the head and slipped him over the side of the raft in the middle of the night or something like that. But that's how sometimes these stories go, isn't it? they'd probably all survived if they had been a little bit harder with this person, but, you know. As you might have guessed, the movie is primarily about sharks, so the contrived situation and non-existent story is pretty much par of the course, to be fair. It's just about getting the characters into the situation they need to be in. They do have some limited backstory, but it's all pretty thinly plotted stuff, and it's just, you know, very basic broad strokes to make you either care about or loathe the character, and none of it really affects the story in any real way. If you think the mechanical shark in Jaws looks fake, wait till you see some of the shots in this film. Some of the CG looks bad. I don't know why. There are plenty of other films that have done CG sharks that have looked better, but I'm guessing it didn't have a massive budget. Especially the shot where the shark bites the pontoon on the plane, and the plane just neatly sinks beneath the waves within seconds. I mean, it only bit one pontoon, so, you know, you'd think it would kind of like lean into the water, but no, apparently the entire plane just sinks. So, you know, that seems like a massive design flaw in the structure of that aircraft. Other times there's some really stunning shots of actual sharks, and it looks great. A lot of the underwater work looks great as well when it happens. Cinematography is quite good, even if the story is a bit meh. And obviously, you know, having some decent scenery, such as it is when they're around the atoll and things, helps too. I believe some of this was filmed in around Queensland, so there was a little bit of trying to guess the locations again. I did wonder why they risked putting their charter guests in danger by searching for the missing boat, especially when they were getting into low fuel and they've already called the Coast Guard. So they could have just let someone better equipped and more professional deal with the problem rather than getting themselves into it. And that's why I mean that the story seems a little contrived in that it kind of forces them into this situation, into the water and, you know, sharks. Also, why does the Coast Guard never seem to respond? I mean, you'd think at some point they would have been out looking for things, they've gotten a message, but apparently not. Maybe it was budget cuts. Unfortunately, the movie ultimately succumbs to the old roaring shark cliche near the end. Sharks do not roar underwater. They are not lions. It's a shark. In summary, it is what it is. Don't expect too much from it. It's fine. It's part shark, part terrible shark adventure, part terrible people in a raft adventure. It's a bit of an adventure with sharks. It is what it is. Kills are pretty mild though. Story's not really there, but yeah, it does have some good scenes, particularly the ones underwater towards the end, and a lot of paddling in the ocean. Check it out if you just want something to veg out to and you don't have to work your brain too hard. Okay, finally we have Monster Hunter. This is a film from 2020 starring Milla Jovovich, Tony Jaa and Ron Perlman. It was showing on Prime. So this is about the impossibly named Artemis and her military team who are transported to a new world in the midst of a strange and supernatural storm that appears during the night in the desert. And they engage in a desperate battle for survival against enormous monsters or creatures or kaiju, whatever you want to call them. That's pretty much all you need to know, really. It's based on a video game from Capcom. The video game itself doesn't have a plot, and this movie doesn't do much to advance on that. It has the thinnest of plots, but like the video game, it's basically built around some impressive world building and some creatures and lots and lots of action. And the movie certainly has plenty of that. It's got heaps of action. There's heaps of people fighting monsters. There's some terrible monsters. There's some quite thrilling and scary monsters, and some exciting sequences. But yeah, there is really not much story. It's literally just a strange world filled with monsters. People hunt them and craft weapons and gear from the monsters to hunt bigger monsters, and that's pretty much what happens in the movie. There is a little bit more of a plot in that there is some kind of abandoned tower left over by a long ago race. No explanation given as to where they've gone or who they were or why. It's just there, and it's randomly ripping open a portal to Earth and dropping unsuspecting victims into this other world. And that's all the story you're getting, really. Interestingly, I thought Artemis goes through the portal and somehow ends up quite a long way away from it, so it's quite a journey for her to get back. Along the way she meets another hunter and they form a bit of a friendship ultimately, and meet some more hunters and go to the portal, all while fighting creatures. I'm guessing if you're watching this, it's not for the story anyway. It's for the action, and it moves along quite briskly. There's no real character development. They're just there to fight monsters, and that's fine. It is what it is. It's a creature feature. If you're looking for a blockbusting monster movie, check it out. I just don't expect a story. There isn't one. Surprisingly, at the end of the film, it goes on to suggest a sequel, but checking online, I see that the film didn't do particularly well, so I'd be very surprised if that happens. Still, stranger things have happened, who knows. Anyway, if you sound like you're into it, check it out. Okay, so those are my suggestions for things that I've watched, and if any of those interest you, check them out. As always, feel free to leave comments below. Let me know what you thought about any of those movies, if you've seen them. If you've got any suggestions, leave those below as well. They are appreciated. As always, click on the like and subscribe so that you can receive the next set of reviews, and I hope to see you back again next time. Thanks for watching. Go enjoy some movies and TV. Bye now.